Welcome to my family, or at least a part of it. What you see is the most precious thing I owe. It's a photograph of my ancestors. To me, it isn't just a photograph. It is a map that I use to navigate when lost in the darkest corners of the unknown. Anna, standing graciously in the middle of the family portrait, leaning to her husband confidently with one arm, with the other affirming the ground with her walking stick. Certainly a sacred object rather than walking necessity. The waterfall's great spirits rising and falling at the same time in the instant behind her, as a great protector, guiding her in a strange way, resembling a figure of an angel, of a ghost, the one of the absolute truth.
In recent years, psychologists have been exploring the existence of traumatic transmission, not only through the passing on of stories through affective or unconscious cues from parent to child, but also vis-a-vis the imprint that these events have on DNA through epigenetic trauma mutates, genes affecting the lives of families across generations. That which was felt by one individual at one time is not only static or self-contained. Rather, it's passed on generationally, physically. The condition of transgenerational trauma occurs collectively, among generations, with a larger community of population, causing a cultural trauma that reverberates outwards in society, when an entire group of people suffers from the large-scale emotional or psychological trauma. The loss of identity and cultural impact continues to affect their descendants, mutating the genes to bear signs of history.
When I turned 33, I had a calling. The spirit of the waterfall came into my dream and revealed the face, and then a voice. I recognized that voice, although I never heard it before, talking now in synchronization with that of Anna. The spirit was trapped in between worlds and unable to rest. It asked for my help to reveal the story and bring out the truth about her death, so uncomfortable to many. I was given 7 years to return her spirit back into the light. When I woke up, I knew my life was never gonna be the same again. The coincidence of this calling of our age, her dying at 33 and me just turning, it was nothing more but a signifier of synchronization of time and passing on the mission. Until I was 6 years old, I thought of myself as a girl. Instantly, this brought a big disturbance, not only in my family, but in the community, regarding the situation of the communist regime. The use of medications throughout my life have been a key detour and deafening factor to my ability to hear her voice. Now, I was only hearing other voices. The ones of insanity, pain, injustice, and screaming out loud humanity. Embarking on my trip of discoveries, I had to put up a big puzzle together, despite many obstacles I had to face everywhere that I knocked.
Genes drive epigenetic regulation of FKBP5. The term for the latter events. Those changes affect the function of genomic DNA, its associated histone proteins, and non-coding RNAs collectively refer to the protein, but do not involve alteration of DNA sequence.
In some of the medical studies that I had to comply to, doctors found out about the lack of the protein FKBP5 related to PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, gave a satisfying answer to my parents of where the cause of the panic and anxiety attacks were coming from, but not to me. From story to another, from mouth to mouth, and after making a DNA test verifying my origin, I could gather some facts, despite all my inquiries into the National Archives of Bulgaria, Sofia City Archives, or Secret Services. Was all destroyed, never existed. Anna and her family came down across the Black Sea, seeking a refuge just before the beginning of the Armenian genocide in late 1914. The family were well educated and wealthy. They settled in Plovdiv, an ancient of age and beautiful city in the heart of Bulgaria, where she, as a young girl, was spotted as a talent of the dramatic theatre group of Armenia. And later, she took on her acting career, appearing on stage at the main theatre of the town. Fascism was on its boom and expanding peak, and so was communism on another hand. In constant battle of establishment, the political landscape was a rather unsettling and shaky ground. The so-called agrarian party, or what we recognize nowadays closest to the democratic position, was gaining popularity amongst peasants, youth and workers. Anna joined the party and became an active member in 1921. Later that year, she has given up her passion for acting and had dedicated to the Union of the Youth. She became a good friend of Georgi Dimitrov with pseudonym Gemeto, the head leader of the party, and actively continued working together in close relation, making an alliance in a so-called democratic pact formed up by the Democratic Party, Radical Democrats and the United People Progressive Party. The pact ran until 1934, when it was denounced, taken down and forbidden by the new, fast-written laws.
Historical trauma can result in great loss of identity, absorption, transformation, regurgitation, like a virus which infects the host cell, causing it to regenerate in itself, killing which fights against it. Capitalism has particular power, one that has continued to mutate itself to survive the changing political landscapes.
The June 9th coup in 1923 was a coup d'etat in Bulgaria, carried out by army units led by the Military Union, which overthrew the government of the Bulgarian Agrarian People's Union. The People Alliance also took part of the preparation of the coup, and subsequently it received his support of most opposition forces, with the exception of the second largest parliamentary party, the Bulgarian Communist Party. Gemeto was endangered and fled to Egypt, where he continued his work from distance, setting a broadcast channel managed by Anna in Bulgaria and other people, close members of the group, but this time in secret. She continued her life knowing the risks she was taking, and danger caught up with her in the summer of 1933, when unable to recover the series of atrocities and tortures that were committed on her in Sofia's prison, she passed. There is a strange coincidence of the time of another event, the one of the burning of the Reichstag and the Leipzig trial. In 1932, Dimitrov was appointed Secretary General of the World's Committee Against War and Fascism, replacing Willy Musenberg. In 1933, he was arrested in Berlin for alleged complicity in setting the Reichstag on fire. Dimitrov famously decided to refuse counsel and defend himself against his Nazi accusers. Primarily, Hermann Göring using the trial as an opportunity to defend the ideology of communism, explaining why he chose to speak in his own defense. Every story is worth telling, especially the ones who weren't meant to be. Each story carried their portion of truth, each voice a reason. From a biological social perspective, illness or disease is not an entity in itself. It manifests in human life and social environments in a certain context. As the psychological cannot be separated by the physical, and the physical cannot be separated by the individuals or the groups, social conditions, connections and existence, and is therefore a consequence of the culture we live in. We are biopsychosocial, but also spiritual creatures. Spiritual, meaning that there is more to us than just the beholders of the ego. The ego that rules most of us, and the ones who rule the particular society. This story is calling for healing, for fast erasure of the capitalist exploitation mechanisms and disappearance of the fascist ways of society control strategies. It is an opportunity to all of us to reconsider oneself and recognize each other. It's about facing an accumulated collective world trauma and enter the stage of healing.